Donald Trump has made many, many mistakes during this campaign. The first that jumps to mind is his selection of J.D. Vance as his running mate. That certainly hasn't worked out well. But the main mistake that Donald Trump has made is opening his mouth and using his tiny little fingers to type away on Truth Social, because every time Donald Trump thinks he can win on a message in this campaign, it really just ends up biting him in the butt. It blows up in his face. It goes completely wrong so quickly that it's just hilarious. And it's the reason that not only Kamala Harris is surging right now because she has such great support from Democrats and independents, but it's the reason that Donald Trump is losing his own voters. Yes, Republicans, 5 to 10% of which are moving over to Kamala Harris in every new poll I see, because Donald Trump puts off voters every time he opens his mouth, and he can't seem to land on a winning issue to talk about in this campaign. His campaign can't seem to find the set of policies that they like or the agenda they want to push. They tried Project 2025. That clearly didn't work. Such a bad policy that for the first time in really campaign history, we see a presidential candidate running away from their own agenda because it is so bad and so unpopular. And these mistakes that Donald Trump has made, one of which we're going to talk about in just a second, that was called out by Fox News as well, the Fox Propaganda Network's only truth teller, Jessica Tarlov. But these mistakes have been so apparent and so hilarious that it's why Donald Trump's campaign is crashing. They've tried calling Kamala Harris out on the border, which didn't work because Donald Trump blew up the bipartisan border deal. They tried hitting her for being soft on crime, which doesn't make sense considering Trump is a convicted felon. And then they had the genius idea of moving over to the economy as the policy that they want to talk about, even though we remember Donald Trump's failed economic record. They think we've forgotten. We surely haven't. And so Donald Trump has made a really big mistake with this economic policy that he's pushing to, that we're going to get to in just a second, that was called out by Jessica Tarlov. But before we do, I'm going to provide a bit of context by playing a bit of Kamala Harris's speech today and a bit of a speech, if I can even call it that, more of a word salad from Donald Trump. But let's look at Kamala Harris first.
To build an America where everyone's work is rewarded and talents are valued, where we work with labor and business to strengthen the American economy, and where everyone has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. So I thank you, North Carolina. We're going to get this done. And with your help, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
That is real messaging. That's how you deliver a message. Kamala Harris actually articulating a vision, her values on the economy, how she wants to move this country forward. And it's a stark contrast compared to Donald Trump and really just the mess that was his address yesterday at his New Jersey golf club. And that will become important in just a second. But let's check out this clip.
Most of the job creation has gone to migrants. In fact, I've heard that substantially more than beyond the number of 100%. It's a much higher number than that. But
what was so funny about that press conference, other than the ridiculousness of Donald Trump and the lies that he spewed that were quickly pointed out, was that he was talking about the cost of living. He was talking about how prices are going up, and that's true, they are. But he was talking about the cost of living at a golf club. At a golf club. And not just at a golf club, at his golf club, one of his many golf clubs. Donald Trump is pretending like he's this regular guy who understands the economy and understands what working families are going through, but that's not true. Donald Trump grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth and has never worked for anything in his entire life. And that campaign mistake has been something Donald Trump has been mocked for widely for, but someone who did the best job at it was Jessica Tarlov.
Net, I think that this was an incredibly good day for Kamala. She was able to introduce herself to the American public in a way that she hadn't before. And you take the contrast of yesterday. So you had President Trump, someone who grew up a millionaire, became a billionaire, standing in front of his golf club, ranting and raving about everything, lying about everything from, GDP rates to poverty rates to energy production, et cetera. And then you have Kamala Harris, someone who's talking about her middle-class upbringing, the fact that her family rented throughout their lives, so she knows what it means for people out there who can't get on the property ladder. Someone who worked at McDonald's through college. You couldn't have the starker juxtaposition between these two candidates. And then on top of it, she's saying to people, I feel your pain. I know how much things cost. You know what I want to do? I want to build 3 million new housing units. You know what I want to do? I want to cap prescription drug prices for everyone, not just Medicare recipients. I mean, yesterday, we didn't get to talk about it because of the Trump press conference, but because Medicare is negotiating drug prices, seniors will get to keep $6 billion of their dollars. That's $1.5 billion in out-of-pocket costs that will be saved because of the policies from the Biden-Harris administration. And that's what today is about regular people getting to keep more of their money.
Donald Trump is really just a joke at this point. It would be funnier if he wasn't so scary, the threat that he poses to working families in America, to our democracy, the destruction that he's already done that had to be fixed by President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. It'd be funnier if it wasn't so scary. But again, we have the contrasting stories here, and that's what this election is about. It's about contrast. It's about Kamala Harris having served this country her entire life, and Donald Trump always trying to serve himself, even in his role as president. Time he spent just trying to funnel money into his businesses, trying to act in every corrupt way possible. That was the Donald Trump presidency. Kamala Harris's service to this country has been selfless. She's been battling back against the corrupt. And that contrast, that message that Kamala Harris is delivering is why Donald Trump is so scared, because it makes him look ridiculous, which he is. And he makes himself look even more ridiculous, like I said, when he tries to respond. And he did so on Truth Social, really just losing all control and melting down with this post. If you think things are expensive now, they will get 100 times worse if Kamala Harris gets 4 years as president. Under her plan, Kamala Harris will implement Soviet-style price controls. She will abolish private health care and make California's ridiculous tax policies the law of the land, meaning every American will be taxed up to 80% of their income. If you want more cash and less tax, vote Trump. That Truth Social post from Donald Trump is just about as disingenuous as his over 100% of jobs are going to migrants message. We don't believe you, Donald, and you just look more and more ridiculous every time you try to push these lies. We know who you are. We know your shtick at this point. And it really, more than anything, just kind of proves how out of touch Donald Trump is, that he doesn't understand what policies that regular working Americans want to see, and that Kamala Harris is talking about those policies and has helped execute on them as vice president alongside Joe Biden, not only recovering our economy from the disaster that was the Trump presidency, but pushing it forward into this state that it is in now, in which it is booming, in which we see jobs going up, American manufacturing going up, investments in infrastructure going up, all while inflation falls. And we want not only 4 more years of that, we want 8 more years of that with Kamala Harris, but Donald Trump doesn't seem to understand that. And another thing that we've been talking about on this show, on the topic of Donald Trump being out of touch, is how out of touch he is in terms of service, in terms of respect for those who have served our country. And that's perfectly put in this ad from the Lincoln Project.
Donald Trump is a draft dodger, a coward.
I had deferments because of college, like a lot of people did, numerous deferments because of college.
When 58,000 men gave their lives in Vietnam, Trump was the spoiled rich kid who faked bone spurs.
I had a foot thing, and I had deferment for that.
He mocked men who fought, bragging that cruising New York for sex and avoiding STDs was his own Vietnam.
It is your personal Vietnam, isn't it?
It is my personal
It is. You've said that many
I feel
times.
like a great and very brave soldier.
Trump called veterans suckers and losers. He mocked POW John McCain.
He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
Donald Trump, a coward, a criminal.
I always wanted to get the Purple Heart. This was much easier.
Stand up for America.
And when we fight, we win!
This is not a leader. This is not someone who is equipped to be commander-in-chief. He wasn't while he was president. And that's why this election is so straightforward. And that's why, in many ways, it's so great, because we have 2 records. We have Donald Trump's abject failure as president. He failed. We know he failed. We lived through it. We didn't live through it 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It was 4 years ago. We remember Donald Trump's failures, and it is our job to remind our friends and family and other voters of Donald Trump's failures. Because when we contrast that with the successes of the Biden-Harris administration, it couldn't be clear who the right choice is in this election. It's Kamala Harris, it's Tim Walz, and it's not going back. We're not going back. And if you want to support that message and help spread it, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. You leave a like on this video. It really goes a long way in supporting this channel. This incredible growth that we've seen in just over a month is so incredible, and I can't wait to keep building it with y'all. And until next time, I'll see you soon.